Board of Zoning Appeals will now come to order, and we will start with our pledge of allegiance. You will rise with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next will be roll call. Roll call starting from my far left.
Eric Arnold.
Rowena Barger.
Larry Hughes. Next item, minutes from August 23rd, 2021.
I move that we approve the minutes from the August 23rd, 2021 meeting.
You guys have one, make a second, I second.
I have a motion before the board. May I have a second? Any further discussion? If not, are we still doing roll call?
Yes. It's in your rules.
Okay, roll call vote, starting from my far left.
Eric Arnold, aye.
Rowena Barger, aye.
Larry Hughes, aye. And minutes pass.
All right. We don't have any old business tonight, so we'll move on to a new business item, which is docket VAR-343-2021, Commerce Grove multifamily parking. The petitioner is requesting development standards variance approval to reduce the parking spaces for a proposed multifamily development located at the northwest corner of 2 Cent Road and State Road 135. The subject property is located, is Zone C4. The petitioner is Crossroad Engineers. The owner is Commerce Grove LLC.
Before we get started, shall we have Aaron swear in anyone who might be here to speak?
Sure. For either petition, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's all right. So this is located, like I said, at the northwest corner of State Road 135 and 2 Cent Road. Specifically, a multifamily development in the proposed Commerce Grove subdivision. The zoning ordinance requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit, and that's dwelling unit. It can be a detached single-family home all the way up to a multifamily development. That's the zoning ordinance defines dwelling unit as that. The petitioners requested, instead of the 2 minimum parking spaces per dwelling unit, a minimum of 1.7 parking spaces per dwelling unit. The proposed site plan on your screen and in your packets proposes 184 multifamily units across those 2 buildings. There's also a clubhouse and community pool in there as well. The development under the ordinance would require 368 parking spaces. The petitioner on this plan has proposed 319 total parking spaces, so a difference of 49 spaces. The minimum parking, or 279 of those spaces are surface parking, and 40 spaces are designated for detached garage parking. The statutory decision criteria are on your screen in your packets for your reference. The petitioner has also responded to those decision criteria, which they'll go over in their presentation. Staff is recommending that the board approve the development standards variance. Petitioner is here tonight to give a presentation, answer any questions. This is a public hearing.
Am I on?
Yes.
Excellent. Good evening. My name is, I apologize for the loss of voice here. Greg Ilko with Crossroad Engineers, office at 115 North 17th Avenue, Beech Grove, Indiana, 46107. As Chelsea identified, we're here before you for VAR 000343-2021 for the development standards variance with regards to the property at the northwest corner of State Road 135 and 2 Cent Road. I do have Mr. Costello here with Commerce Park South LLC as owner, and also Commerce Grove developer. So he's got two hats on actually this evening. Mr. Hughes, Mr. Arnold and Ms. Umbarger are very familiar with the project. Mr. Hughes, you would have saw it at the Stormwater Board meeting, but you'll see more of it next week.
I'm no longer
Oh, you're no longer on it. Okay, all right. So
They
I'll for your benefit, I'll go through this just as
retired.
Chelsea identified. The property is in the southeast corner of the limits of Bargersville, near the intersection of 144 and 135, more specifically the northwest corner of 2 Cent Road and 135. We did recently, this year, 2021, rezone from C3 to C4 to accommodate the mixed-use development. The C4 allows that residential component within the arterial commercial district. The land use map and the existing conditions, again, Chelsea touched on these. The whole area really is mixed use existing. We've got to the north of us Summer Gardens, which are existing duplexes, typical with what we'll be developing in the 47 acres. There at the corner, a couple car washes, the self-storage, the restaurant. And then to our south, the industrial park with a little bit more self-storage and some miscellaneous industrial uses. The highway garage there in our southwest corner. And then we're actually coordinating with the development team with Arbor Homes for the property to the west of our parcel, which is going to be single family, and that'll really bridge to the Oak Rail subdivision there on Baldwin Street. The site plan Chelsea had up on there, just kind of reiterating that. The specific area on this request is with regard to relief from the development standard only for the multi-family use only. So we're not looking any variances for any of the commercial or any of the duplexes. This is going to be associated with the multiple family development portion only. And as she identified, it was for relief from the 2 spaces per unit to 1.7 spaces per unit. We do have 2 buildings consistent with really the layout that we've seen here since zoning, 2 92-unit apartment buildings, the dog park and the open space there, and then the clubhouse and the pool, all centrally located for as far as amenities go for the development. The layout does provide excellent parking distribution with convenient location to all the entry points of the buildings, including the clubhouse. And as Chelsea identified in her staff report, there are 319 total parking spaces being made available on this lot. Just really quickly, and again, you saw these at the zoning level. The template of this project is by the Garrett Companies is the promenade at Newman Crossing, which is a existing development, as you can see in this photo, down in Newman, Georgia. So just an idea of the quality that the Garrett Companies, the multifamily developer, is going to bring to the corner. That's the template that we'll be using at this development. So the zoning ordinance and why we're here is specifically from section 12.3, table 12.3, and the parking requirements by use. Town of Bargersville has dwelling unit and dwelling unit only, and it simply says 2 per unit. I think it's key to point out that obviously there's no differentiation between the types of dwelling units, whether they be multifamily, studio, duplex, whatever. And this development itself, the unit mix within it is nearly over 50% one-bedroom apartments. So of the 184 units, 88 of them are going to be one-bedroom apartments. 39% of the units, or 72 of the units, are going to be 2-bedroom, and then the remaining small portion of 13%, 24 units, are going to be the 3-bedroom. So we have obviously not the density that you might find in an apartment complex that has multiple bedroom units, or the majority of the units are multiple bedroom. So to give you an idea, some comparable ordinances. I went north a little bit, I went south a little bit. The town of Noblesville, right there on top, in their zoning ordinance, they actually break it down between studio units, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom. And those numbers to the right of each definition correspond to the density of parking spaces per unit. So if we were in Noblesville, for example, and let me just clarify that by no means am I saying do we need to be Noblesville, Whiteland, Carmel, Greenwood. I'm simply giving you examples of what some of the other standards are in jurisdictions about the area. So the Noblesville standard, do the math on our unit mix, we would actually only require 283 spaces. So we're actually providing 36 more for their standards. Whiteland was really the extreme. They're one space per family. So we're 1.7 times what Whiteland requires. Carmel is 1.5 spaces per unit, but they actually do impose for ancillary parking, guest parking, an additional space per 7 units of apartments. So you take your total units, divide it by 7, and you have to have that many additional spaces. So if you run that math, in Carmel, the parking spaces that we would require to provide would be 303. So we're still about 16, well, not about, we are providing 16 more than what an apartment complex in Carmel would require. And then Greenwood, just north of us here, is fairly typical with actually what Garrett Companies is asking. Greenwood actually has 2 multifamily. They've got a multifamily building. So if you do like a 5-plex or a 6-plex townhome per se, that's only 1 space per unit. But then they also have a definition of a multifamily building complex where it's 2 or more buildings with associated clubhouse, pool, basically what we've got. And that's where the 1.75 spaces per unit come in. And if you do that math, you're at 322 spaces. We're providing 319. So obviously the 500ths difference in the ratio, the 1.75 versus the 1.7. So all that is to say that we're out there with what, if not exceeding what other jurisdictions are doing. The mix of the units that we have, I think, are really set this development off and necessitate the variance. So as far as the findings of fact, the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare, the anticipated parking needs that we're going to be providing in the multifamily development, they're well established by similar existing multifamily developments that the developer has done, and they're operating safely and efficiently. And the requested reduction of the parking requirements are consistent, as I just showed in the previous slide, with jurisdictions around central Indiana. So there will be nothing injurious to public health and safety. The use and value of the areas adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Again, the reduction of the required parking spaces still provides sufficient off-street parking within the limits of the multiple family component of the proposed subdivision. And the areas adjacent to the multiple family dwelling units will realize no different use or value due to the reduction from the 2 to the 1.7 ratio. The third finding of fact from a development standards variance is the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties. So on this one, the construction of the additional parking spaces, if we were to be held to the 2 per unit, it basically results in unnecessary impervious areas, obviously increases stormwater runoff. It demands additional water quality and quantity measures, and creates pretty much avoidable maintenance issues long-term for the development. The current ordinance, as we identified before, just does not differentiate the parking requirements between the many types of allowable residential dwelling units that are within the town of Bargersville zoning ordinance. And then lastly, the extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property due to its size and shape, topography that inhibit compliance with the ordinance requirements. Again, I just have to go back to the fact that the code simply does not contemplate the varying types, styles, densities of dwelling units as it pertains to a minimum residential parking space requirement. And Chelsea alluded to this in her report that a 1-bedroom studio apartment requires the same amount of parking spaces as a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom, single-family detached dwelling unit. has. I'll say one more time, again, the Garrett Company, they're nationally recognized and experienced multifamily developer with projects spanning over 17 states throughout the country with over 15,000 units. The ask today is the minimum ask based on their history, and we're confident that there still will be adequate parking provided to make this a community successful. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions. I guess I'll just say that I appreciate staff's recommendation of approval. And again, just pointing a couple key points. One, obviously, variances are not precedent setting. We're not setting precedences here. The things I want to point out again is the developer, highly successful, knows what their product needs in terms of parking requirements, and the unit mix that we have, almost 50% of it being one bedroom, is very unique and very contributing to the necessity or the ability to reduce that parking requirement. So with all that being said, I respectfully ask for the approval of variance and be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, and I'm not experienced in this as far as that type of apartments and so on. I work for CDI, and we did basically doubles, so they had their own parking. But my concern is, what do you do with guests? Where do they park? This is, of course, anticipating that you have full occupancy, et cetera. And there are going to be, for the most part, probably no more than 2 cars in any of the families, possibly more, you never know. But how do you deal with that?
It's built into the 1.7, and again, I'll go to the fact that the vast majority of these apartments are going to be one bedroom. So the assumption is that there's going to be single individuals living there, possibly some couples in there that may have 2 vehicles, but that's where the 1.7 average comes in, is that there's room for, within that 1.7, guests, people to visit the office. Obviously, there's areas within the dog park that internal of the apartment complex, they may, I don't know if they'll drive over there, they'll probably just walk over there, but those spaces are there also. But it's just all part of the math. Again, in all the jurisdictions that I referenced, Noblesville, Whiteland, Carmel, Greenwood, it's simply a broad spanning, here's your units, you have this many spaces per unit. And it accommodates or accounts for potential guests at specific units at whatever given time. There's a little bit of method to the madness. And again, I'll revert to the Garrett Company's history and their experience in their developments that they've had. They've ran these numbers and have had success in providing this amount of parking. And so they haven't had issues. Obviously, if the parking isn't there, the residents aren't going to show up. So they know the sweet spot, if you will, to where they're keeping their tenants happy and not causing issues.
I'm sure there's probably a formula. I'm just not aware of what it would be, how you anticipate something like that.
Correct.
Any questions from the board?
Couple questions I had, and you answered with the presentation, so it's a sign of a good presentation.
Thank you.
If no further questions, we will open the public hearing.
I think I am going to speak, but I might have to get sworn in again.
And are you speaking tonight as well?
Yeah.
Do you want to get sworn in too?
Sure. Yep.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes. Hi, my name is Dave Cecil, and I live in the Summer Gardens addition, which is obviously just next to this First, I want to say these guys are really professional. And I just want to ask a couple of questions more than anything. All right. I was real pleased to hear they're going to develop the duplexes as an over 55 community, which I think is fantastic. Although I'll go ahead and say this is probably on YouTube. The area that I'm living in, they're going to probably talk like we're not quite as good as what they're building, but we'll get used to it. My questions though, okay, first we're talking about 49 spaces short, so that kind of worried me a little bit. I just want to say these things. The options for people to park are going to be really limited if there were too many cars there. Number one, they're not going to park where the old people are. I can just see that'll be a riot. And then the only other option would be the eventual commercial development. I don't think those people would enjoy it. And I don't know that there is another place to park if there was an overflow. So that's the first thing that I worry about. But then my only other one, and believe me, I think these guys are real professional. I thought they made a great concession or whatever you want to call it last week. But are the numbers, is the 88 one bedrooms, is that because you haven't actually done a plat, right? And so my question is, can that be changed after you do the variance? I'm trying to say that respectfully. I just wouldn't want to, oh yeah, well, we were thinking about 88 one bedrooms, but now it's only going to be 10. The rest are more than one bedroom. And I don't know who can answer that. So that's my main question is, can it be changed? And if so, when? Because obviously that would be a concern. But otherwise, no, it looks like a really nice development. The gentleman, Greg, had mentioned a property that I drove by not too long ago, just the other day, and it looks, I don't think it's exactly what y'all are doing, but it's in the ballpark, and I think it would look good here. I'm not opposed to that, just more concerned what's going to happen if, like, would you start issuing parking stickers? I mean, I don't know what would happen there, but anyhow. Okay, the next one.
Okay. Did you want to answer his question?
Oh, no, we actually have comments from our streaming.
Oh, okay.
Dave Bush commented, I vote no, we don't need more congestion. And Jeff Sickmeyer has commented, citing other jurisdictions are not relevant, and asked the question, if they were held to the ordinance, does that reduce the number of units?
If they were held to the ordinance, it would have to reduce the units.
Or increase parking.
Or increase parking, one or the other, correct.
Increase the due.
But as far as changing the plat after the variance has been issued, can they change?
If we close the public hearing, do we need to do that first?
We can. And the public hearing is closed. Sorry, go ahead.
No, at this point, there's not a development plan filed or approved. So there's nothing holding them to that number unless the board were to condition the variance on said number, which is within the board's authority to do so.
And the numbers again were how many single bedrooms?
I think Mr. Costello was going to address some of Mr. Bush's comments, if I could do that, if he could do that real quick.
Yeah, okay. All right. No, good questions. Greg Costello, representing both of our companies, Commerce Park South as well as Commerce Grove. So good questions in regards to that. And I think that's where we really have to draw upon when we looked at this a multifamily portion of this upcoming project goes back many years. And Garrett Companies, we know Garrett Companies very well. We've worked with Garrett Companies before. And I think that's where we have to draw on their expertise. They're 15,000 units strong over multiple states. And there was, and I think we also have to look at our neighbors in the community as well, in the neighboring counties that, and even in our own county, and what their requirements. This is they're the experts in that field, and that's what we draw upon when we look at when they sit down to lay a project out of what their acreage requirements are and so forth with us. We work hand in hand, and this is what their numbers support on their projects throughout the country on exactly what we're looking to on, and they built this particular, I don't want to say product, but they built this particular style on other properties, and this parking is work. There is parking, guest parking to be allocated at their clubhouse. So there are designated guest parking places. So I think that was.
Is that included in the number?
It is.
It is.
I assumed, but.
Yeah.
Right. So there is designated parking when people come.
So in terms of the unit mix, Mr. Hughes, it was 88 one-bedroom, of the 184 units, 88 one-bedroom, 72 two-bedroom, and 24 three-bedroom. And if I understand correctly, that we would be willing to make that a commitment with the variance, just to make sure that you knew, and obviously based on my presentation, that the number of one-bedroom units assists. I appreciate Mr. Sickmeyer's comment. Hey, Jeff. As far as the relevance of adjacent development standards, I think they're relevant in the sense that standards fluctuate. If I went to Greenwood, Whiteland, Noblesville, and Carmel, and everybody was 2 spaces per unit, I wouldn't have much of an argument for you. So that the idea, the relevance of it is to say that there isn't a standard. Carmel has identified that 7 spaces per unit at 1.5 plus 1.5 units per, or 1.5 spaces per unit suits them fine. And so that was the idea of my example, to let you know that going to the findings of fact, and that I'm not creating a safety or any health issues, that, this development as is would be exceeding parking requirements in a couple of the jurisdictions. That was the purpose and I think relevance of the adjacent zoning district regulations. And then lastly, as far if should this not go through, as far as the reduced spaces equals reduced units, obviously we've got to do some thinking and to see what can be done with the Garrett companies to accommodate. But hopefully we get the variance.
The hamster's running around my head on how I answer this. Did you find any, because you picked the ones that were in your favor, when you did your surrounding, were there others that were similar to Bargersville at that 2?
Franklin is 2, Johnson County is 2, so I was looking at the donut counties. So Bargersville is typical with Johnson County.
Yep.
And typical with the city of Franklin.
Okay. But again, to your point, still it's variable. Okay.
So do you feel there's a way to redesign the parking without reducing number of units to accommodate the, I see that it's kind of rounded.
Yeah.
So it appears that there may be opportunity to increase the parking. Let's see. Yeah.
So, and again, to the strict application and the additional, I guess we're going back as Greg indicated, and as I stated in the presentation, the number of parking spaces that Garrett Companies has identified that they know they need, that what they're comfortable with is that 1.7 ratio.
But
So
you're in Bargersville.
Understand. I understand.
Whatever
so
they're comfortable with.
If they were to build more, I mean, that's, I guess, what we would have to look to make room for more. But it would be just additional impervious area that by their standards, by their standards, understanding not Bargersville standards, but by their standards, would not be used parking spaces. And so we've got additional asphalt that's out there that is causing additional runoff. And as I indicated, additional maintenance issues that they would like to avoid. Well,
If the board doesn't mind me asking a question of the petitioner, Greg, are any of those parking maximums or are they all parking minimums?
the ones that I get put on the,
Carl Noblesville.
those are all the minimums, just as Bargersville's too.
I was just curious if they were parking maximums, which is.
Oh, and honestly, I didn't look into that. I ran into an issue in Noblesville where I think that you can't exceed 10% of the required. So there are some maximums as well. But I just, for the purposes of this,
Curiosity, point
Yeah.
of clarification.
Totally sure where you would increase if you, other than to square this off and.
Yeah, you can pick up a handful if you squared it off,
But it might be 15.
maybe. You might be able to decrease your covered spaces and get more, maybe, but you're only picking up a handful.
Well, the only problem I have, even with a single bedroom, it could be a couple. And unfortunately, with most couples now, both work and both drive.
The counter side of it is having, it seems like it wasn't that long ago, but it was probably closer to 15 years ago now, but having lived in an apartment, I'll call fairly reasonably, in a development that was a nationally run thing, he's right. They got their numbers down. They know, yeah, you could hit Armageddon and you could run out, but I never ran out of a place to park my car when I lived there. I was living with two other guys. I mean, so we had roommates and they've got their math down. So I tend to trust that 1.7 is ample. But at the same point, I also understand we have a level, a number for a reason.
If the board would allow, I guess, at this point, what I'd like to do is go back to the development firm itself, confirm some things, and possibly come back with maybe an additional commitment or something, but unfortunately, they weren't able to join. So if you would entertain a continuance of a month, I would
Well, and I was gonna ask
Respectfully
you,
ask
given that
that.
we've only got 3 of us, and the rules state that we have to have a majority. If we were to come up with 2, or unanimous, sorry, if we were to come up as a 2-to-1 vote one way or the other,
Gets bumped to.
it gets
the
bumped
meeting.
automatically, so, okay, it doesn't kill it then?
No.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
So we'll just, if you would be, I guess I respectfully ask for a continuance at this
I'm
point.
fine with that.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue, read the number, hold on.
And that would be without additional notice, is that correct?
Up to the board.
Okay, I guess before we want to require notice for another public hearing. I feel like we probably should,
Yeah,
given that
yeah,
there's
we
gonna be
do.
additional changes that may be coming
I
forward.
think we should.
Okay. I will make a motion to continue variance number 343-2021, the Commerce Grove multifamily parking with the requirement that's proper notice is given before next month's meeting.
And what was the date of that meeting?
September.
Next,
November.
November 22nd.
Thank you.
I'm trying to move us back in the year.
I have a
Just
motion.
gone too quick.
I second that one.
I have a motion before the board and I have a second. Any further discussion? If not, by roll call vote. My far left,
Eric Roll, aye.
Rowena Umbarger, aye.
Larry Hughes, aye.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you. I know, that's terrible. All we do is get over it.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is for docket VAR-345-2021, Aberdeen Lot 35 driveway. The petitioner is requesting development standards variance approval to construct two residential driveways on a subject property located at 3899 Chapel Hill Court. The property is zoned PUD as part of the Aberdeen subdivision. Petitioner is Duke Holmes, represented by Maurer Surveying. So this is an existing single-family development on Lot 35 of Aberdeen. And the petitioner is requested to keep a proposed driveway onto Chapel Hill Court. There is an approved driveway off of Lockview Court at this time. It's a corner lot, and the zoning ordinance only permits one drive cut or driveway onto a property. The petitioner has responded to the decision criteria, statutory decision criteria on your screen and in your packets for your reference. As a reminder, driveway standards are written to avoid conflicts between motorists, intersections, and private driveways. So that's the reason for that provision within the zoning ordinance, and that applies. This ordinance applies to all properties within the town. Staff is recommending that the board deny the development standards variance to permit a second driveway entrance, as decision criteria C and D have not been met in staff's opinion. The petitioner is here tonight to give a presentation and answer any questions. This is a public hearing.
Thank you, Chelsea. My name's Andrew Barcosi. I'm with Maurer Surveying. We're at 4800 West Smith Valley Road, Suite O now, Greenwood, Indiana, 46142. As Chelsea stated, this is a Duke Holmes development here in Aberdeen, which is a private road subdivision. Mr. Duke would like to first reach out for his apologies for not being at the meeting today. As you know, he had homeorama, and so he's now taking a very nice time off to recoup from all of that. But this is one of the homes in Aberdeen. And as stated, it's right on the roundabout in the subdivision. It is built, it is constructed. They finished it just before homeorama opened. And we are requesting to have a driveway as shown. Just due to it's a corner lot. This is pretty common on, I'm going to say high-end homes. You having two curved arches like this. It also helps with being on a roundabout. As you know, some people don't really know how to use roundabouts very well. So having a way to exit onto the roads with a front entrance would really help out with this instance here. There's also a couple islands that have to come into play as well. I know they're a little farther, but we do meet the center line to driveway restriction, which I believe is 75 feet from the center line. We're well over that. These are larger lots. This is a 1.4 acre parcel. And technically in some subdivisions, this could actually be two lots and you could have two driveways in these same locations at the same time. But due to the layout of Aberdeen, these are much larger lots. As stated before, it is a private subdivision. So these are private roads. It is gated. So there will be less traffic going through the roads. It's not like people, cutting through other subdivisions or, construction jams or anything like that, trying to go around them. It will be gated. So just there's going to be a reduced amount of traffic in the subdivision already. And then it is pretty common already in Bargersville. These are two driveways here in Carrington proper. The one on the left is in Carrington Proper Section 3. Kind of on a corner lot. It's kind of an interesting T shape in the very upper northwest corner of Carrington Proper. And then the other one, I believe, is Lot 3 in Carrington Proper, right when you come in the entrance, which are all in Bargersville. This one was actually at your guys' last meeting, which was approved. Same kind of scenario. It's a different layout. I think the one we have here is a little bit better. I believe they also got a variance to go within 70 feet instead of 75 as well. So that was approved at the last meeting. This one is in Hickory Estates. It's another private subdivision down on the south side of Whiteland Road, just east of Morgantown Road. This one, not really a corner lot, kind of is a little bit different. This is in Claiborne, on the south end of the Claiborne Loop. This is in Kinder Run. It's a 5 lot private subdivision over off of Morgantown Road, just south of 144, a little bit north of Aberdeen. This subdivision is Persimmon Woods. There's about 3 of them in here. It's kind of hard to tell. I tried to get them all in here, but there's about 3 U-shaped driveways from these. This is, again, another private subdivision. I believe Persimmon Woods is private as well. This is Whitetail Woods. Again, another 2 driveways. And then this is Serenity Woods, which is just adjacent to Aberdeen. These are just the ones in Bargersville. There are also several throughout White River Township. There's some in Hickory Stick. There's some in Kensington Grove. Pretty much all the subdivisions. It's a pretty common factor to have here. Johnson County does allow them. Mike Duke actually just did one at Smoky Row Road and Saddle Club Road on a house there. I think it was about 2 acres, so a little bit bigger than this lot. But again, another U-shaped 2 driveways. So I understand the staff's reducing everything to 1 lot or to 1 access to on a road, but corner lots I think are a little bit different. You technically have the way to access both lots. It just makes it flow easier. And as you can see, the house is positioned to look like this. And with the roundabout and people crossing through there, I think it just warrants allowing the homeowners and guests to park on the road, park on the driveway for one thing, and to exit forward instead of backing out as someone's kind of whipping through a roundabout. There's also a gazebo kind of in that roundabout, so you're already kind of being blocked as traffic's coming in as well. So I think this fits the lot very well, fits the subdivision very well. And it is, again, these are not public roads. These are private roads maintained by the HOA and the owners. It'll be gated. And that's it. If you have any questions.
It appears that, go ahead. It appears that both of these streets that are adjacent to the property are courts.
That's correct.
It is.
That's correct. Blockview Court, I think it's only like 6 or 7 more lots. It's not very far before it gets into another cul-de-sac. Chapel Hill is a little bit longer, but it does end up looping back around to a cul-de-sac in Section 5 that is actually finishing construction right now.
Maybe I misheard you or misunderstood what you said. Is this construction done?
Yes,
And the driveway's in.
The
Yes.
driveway's done?
that's correct.
Okay.
Abe is a Homerama.
Sure, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, let's ask for forgiveness after.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, nothing to say about that part.
And the number of examples that we saw, I'm assuming, did those come before here?
So, probably a majority of those were old subdivisions in Johnson County. But my point wasn't saying that they were approved by your board. My saying was
They were grandfathered in.
Yeah.
They're without, going property to property and knowing that some of those are likely were done before this ordinance or even before they were within the town of Bargersville.
That's right.
But then there are some that we have issued building permits on those lots since those properties were annexed in or developed. But mostly those homeowners are doing them without the town's permission. So the town approves the building permit with a single driveway, and
They added there.
folks either after, the home has gotten the certificate of occupancy in a couple of years or however long, they can decide they want to add another driveway cut and don't ask the town.
It's all coming back to me from 2 months ago to me. Had the exact same conversation.
Pretty much.
Yes.
I guess I have a little bit of a problem in that it was denied back in 2020 when the building permit was issued.
It came in front of you guys?
No.
Oh,
um,
The original permit submittal
that might
had
have.
the driveway layout like this.
Okay, I did not know
2020.
that. I was not aware of
The
that.
builder was informed.
Yeah.
One driver variance, revised submittal to show one drive was provided.
That must not have been
So it
done.
was, yeah, it was.
He must
an
have revised it himself.
administrative denial at the building permit stage.
So they were very aware of what was permitted.
Yeah,
I'm not-
yeah, so-
I'm just saying.
I'm not on the building side.
I don't know.
Any further questions?
Chop it up, right?
Pretty much.
I do want to stress again that this is it's a private subdivision. The town has technically no control over the roads or anything like that. So the petitioner just really wanted to stress that these are, the HOA should be really kind of maintaining and approving it. No, Mike is kind of the HOA right now. It does fit in the area, and I don't think this will be the only one that comes in front of you in this subdivision.
Although we don't necessarily agree with how it was done.
Right.
It doesn't have to be part of our decision.
I look at it from two sides of it's a no-brainer. We did it last month or wherever it was. But then the other side of me is the pettiness and the thumbing the nose at the rule. Bugs me a little bit, but what are you gonna do?
No further questions. We will go through the public hearing part. You have this one here. Now open the public hearing. And as there is no one to speak to that, we now close the public hearing. Further questions or discussion? We're all neighbors. We don't always agree. We are neighbors.
No, I know. I'll make a motion to approve variance request 345-2021 for Aberdeen Lot 35's driveway.
I'll second it.
I have a motion before the board and I have a second. Any further discussion? If not, by roll call vote, starting from my far left.
Fair Carl, aye.
Luana Martin, aye.
Larry Hughes, aye. And motion carries.
Thank you all very much. I will make sure my stays in line.
Just let you know that. if-
Tell them to start bringing them sooner.
Yeah.
Right, that's right.
Don't build them before you.
Right.
get them approved.
Makes us look bad.
You guys take care. Have a good one.
Good night.
All right. Our last new business item is 2022 meeting dates for the board. So these are all our standard fourth Monday of the month at 7 p.m. With two exceptions. In May, which usually happens for us, we run into conflicts with Memorial Day. So this has been moved. The proposed May meeting date is that following day, that Tuesday, because we're closed. The town is observing Memorial Day, usually as a holiday. And then in December, the fourth Monday of the month falls on December 26th. In years past, the board has decided to instead, with the Christmas holiday, with it being so close, to meet on that Tuesday instead of meeting after Christmas. So we have proposed that date. If the board wishes to meet on the 26th of December instead, then that is the board's
December
choice.
20th would be the day after the planning commission.
That is
December
correct.
19th, correct? That was good.
Yes.
Correct.
So,
Do we need a motion to approve?
I would.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed 2022 BZA meeting dates.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion before the board, and I have a second. If no further discussion, I roll call vote from my far left.
Eric Arnold, aye.
Rowena Parker, aye.
Larry Hughes, aye. Motion carries.
all right. No other new business items from staff. We do have just a general announcement from the town. The town will be hosting Trunk or Treat. You may have seen signs coming in. Trunk or Treat will be this Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Here out on Main Street. So that's free and family friendly for folks. So feel free to come on by for that. And then official trick-or-treating hours are Sunday night from 6 to 8, I believe.
That sounds right.
So they're posted on our website as well. So yeah, that's, unless Joe has anything else, that's all from staff.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Here, here.
I have a motion before the board, and I have a second by roll call vote.
Eric Arnold, aye.
Rowena Parker, aye.
Larry Hughes, aye. And we're done. Thank you all for being here.